Imagine taking your first step into a unit with dozens of alarms beeping, ventilators flashing, and babies crying, knowing this is what you'll be hearing and seeing for the next few days to months. The purpose of my speech today is to introduce you what NICU nurses do, as well as how they got to where they are. This is significant to many of you that are planning or already have a baby because there are 450,000 babies being born in the United States too early, and it's important to understand what NICU nurses have gone through so you have trust if you're ever in a situation like this. To help you better understand this, I'm going to introduce you to the education NICU nurses go through, as well as the daily lives of a NICU and the 4 different levels of the NICU. To start this speech off, I'm going to introduce you to the education. There are about 3 main steps to becoming a NICU nurse depending on which route you take. The first step to becoming a NICU nurse is to graduate from a nursing school with your registered nursing completed and then obtain your Bachelor of Science in Nursing. The second step is to become licensed. This is a test you take before you can start working as a registered nurse. According to the National Council of State Board of Nursing on January 4th, 2020, approximately 12% have failed while 88.29% had passed. The third step is to gain experience in a NICU. Many hospitals will not hire nurses without 2 or more years of experience in this field. The education NICU nurses go through isn't primarily only how to save a premature's life, but also how to cope with situations. It's extremely hard watching babies and parents struggle through this time, but through the education process and training, they are taught ways to handle situations like these. After hearing the education NICU nurses go through, I'm now going to introduce you to what NICU nurses do on a daily basis in a hospital setting. Every day NICU nurses walk through the door, they really never know what their 12-hour shift will bring them. They primarily take care of the most tiniest and the most sickest people in the hospital. Premature infants are not only small, but their entire body is undeveloped and premature. This includes their brain, heart, lungs, and much more. While being in a NICU, you will notice that everything is so tiny. Premature babies are measured in grams and centimeters. Imagine being in a doctor's office and seeing the equipment they use on yourself. Shrink that down to about the size of your thumb or your pinky. The equipment is around that size. Linda Kinswell, the author of A Day in the NICU Nurse, wrote on September 15, 2019, "We see everything from full-term infants with exotic brain injuries to neonatal babies that are withdrawing from maternal drug use to the smallest of the smallest neonates. Once babies are sent to the NICU nurses are responsible for caring for the infants, maintaining equipment, monitoring infections or status changing, providing support, and the education to the family members." On April 10, 2018, the Fresh RN team wrote an article, "What do NICU nurses do?" This explained that 98% of their days are great, while the other 2% of their days are really bad. Most of these days consist of feeding the babies, holding the babies, caring for them while they're almost time to go home, while the other 2% of the time is holding a new mom's hand, explaining to her that it's time for them to hold their baby while they take their last breath. After hearing what NICU nurses do, I'm going to now explain to you what the other different levels of a NICU is. The first level is the well newborn nursery. They care for babies up to full term. This is a standard level of care for babies born or close to the term. The newborn nursery primarily takes care, measures height, weight, baby's first baths, necessary blood tests, and monitors to make sure everything stays the same. The second is a special care nursery. They care for babies born at 32 weeks or greater in full-term babies that require close monitoring and antibiotics after birth. According to Sarah Navoke of the American Academy of Pediatricians in 2020 explained, babies born after 28 weeks have almost 94% of a survival and keeps on growing after the weeks being born. The third level is the intensive care unit. These are babies that are born around 27 weeks or later, as well as babies who are diagnosed with serious health conditions. Here, nurses have the most intense responsibility. They're always checking ventilators, incubators, making sure the babies are responding well, and making sure parents know how to take care of them correctly. According to Amanda, a mother of a premature once said, "The NICU is a very scary place, seeing your baby hooked up to all these machines and monitors and wires, and in its experience you won't easily forget." The fourth level is the regional NICU. This level is the micro premature babies born at 26 weeks or later, born about 1 pound, less than 1 pound and 12 ounces, as well as babies born with serious birth defects or conditions. They provide life support, performing advancements, imaging, MRI, and a full range of respiratory support and equipment. According to Sherry Bird, introduces what many people don't know about the level 4 nursery in 2020 article called Neonatal Care and NICU Nurse Levels. As many people would assume, the level 4 nursery is in every hospital, but that isn't true. They're only in certain hospitals, and if there was a case of your baby being a level 4, they would be transferred immediately to a different hospital with a level 4 NICU care there. Having and knowing the ability to save a baby's life the size of your hand is something very special, and not many people are able to do it. I've now introduced you to the 3 main things that make up a NICU nurse, from the education they go through to their daily lives on the hospital floor, as well as the different levels of the NICU that each one of them can transfer to. With this, I hope you now have a better understanding of what NICU nurse is, and as well as what they do, and if you are ever in a situation with a premature or an unhealthy baby, you will have some understanding of what you're going into. Thank you all for listening.